throw a general question at you, and I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Like, at what point did you decide MySpace just didn't work anymore? You know what I mean?
Early.
And I say this in a general question, like, when do you know when it's like, how on trend do you stay? When do you feel like you need to pivot? Do you kind of wait and see? Are you first adopter to things? Kind of what's your process for going through the transition of media?
That's a tough one because it's a little bit instinctual. I think I've learned from failure a lot. I think that's why I was good at this early days. The rest made a lot of the worst decisions where people would be like, what do you think? But it was like 7 guys that had no connection to the industry. And were also fiercely kind of independent individuals. And so we made a lot of bad decisions because of that. But those decisions, I think we got better. And I got better at the music industry because of that. So with MySpace, all of us, the band held on too long and was like, "Oh, we're not going to make a Facebook account because MySpace. We got 100,000 people on MySpace.
Yeah, we're huge.
Did you hear that, Joe? 100,000 people. But it wasn't necessarily that way forever, right? You could see the numbers trickling back. But with my business, I just would read how artists were also feeling too. What do they think is important? And if you get a sample size of people asking you the same questions, you should go down that road. Now, that road, everybody always asks me about sync. Well, it's a different job than mine. I would have to change my profession in the music industry to be able to do that because right now, it doesn't align with the core of what I do. In 5 years, maybe it does.
Right.
Maybe in 2 years it does. Maybe, I've been talking about rights management recently. There's no way in hell, even 2 years ago, I would have been thinking about rights management. But there's a need there. I know some people in the industry now. I know some tech that might be helping people. So it's all this is something that everyone's going to be like, hey, watching this, can I talk to you about rights management? Look at the date. If it's 6 months in the future from that date, call me about rights management. I probably didn't figure it out. I
love that.
But I'm always looking for that new thing to get to what's going to be that interesting thing that's going to be there. I try to pay attention to artists and managers and what they're asking me and not get too stuck. But also don't abandon things that maybe don't work as well as they used to, but it still have value. Blogs are a great example of that. They have nowhere near the value they had.
They were huge like 10, 15 years ago.
Life-changing, and especially when I was starting. And then 10 years ago, they were still really important. 5 years ago, like you're starting to see them waver. Streaming had kind of taken a hold, but there was value. And what's been interesting is that value hasn't necessarily changed that much in the next 5 years. They kind of just have held on to a space a little bit. Now, I think that could change again. I think one day I could be on one of these things that someone will reference 10 years from now and say, you said on that thing about blogs, and I'll go, I have no idea. But in a year time, I could be not pitching them. Yeah. And last year was maybe the back half of 2023 was the first year I got more playlists than press.
Interesting.
And then last year it was more. It was like decidedly more playlists than press. This year it's even more. So it's going in that direction. But now we're also seeing social media posts pop up for artists and people wanting this program we're on. That's what they call it.
Inside the Music, StereoRuss.
This is a program, and on this program and these type of programs, you talked to Superstar Crush.
I did.
Who we're working with, who are awesome.
Love them.
And that a couple years ago, there wouldn't have been spaces for emerging artists like Superstar Crush that there are now on social, through podcasts, through these long form interviews. But really, a lot of it's going to be that you know that short form you're making from that.
Yeah, and I think what you said earlier was really interesting. How you're really kind of like leaning into what your clients or the artists you're working for are asking for, right? So yeah, especially people like, I think Superstar Crush is a fascinating one. For those that don't know, you should really go check them out. They're
very great,
very great. And for as someone who's aging, I've got a big gray in my beard. They're young,
not as much as me.
Well, it's because mine's shorter. The longer it gets, the grayer
That's
it
true.
gets. Yeah. I find it always interesting chatting with younger folks because, if you go to a show and like teenagers are going to want to look at a band like Superstar Crush, who are like
100%.
just a few years older, and they were just recently in school. They all kind of grew up with phones in their hand, where they kind of like, those came to us, like Facebook happened after we all graduated, right? So it's like a different kind of beast. And so like, what are you learning? And this might be for the older people out there. Like, what are you gleaning? What are you taking from the younger folks, and like where you think like music and music production and perhaps music marketing is going?
So I think the one thing that's interesting that I've taken the last few years with new bands would have often started by playing shows, and then after and maybe had a release, and then they would have gone back and had an internet presence. They would have done something locally.
Like, oh, now we're kind of an entity, so now we'll go on the internet.
Yeah, now, and now you have these very well-defined internet presence.
Sure.
And then they get their shows.
Yeah.
Now, Superstar Crush, I think it maybe works in a little bit more of a hybrid of both worlds of the old way of they played a lot locally and they've done that thing.
But you're seeing that a lot more lately with like
they've never played a show, they've never thought about playing a show, but they have these amazing recordings.
Do some of these artists have inclinations and desires to play live, or are they like strictly they want to be?
I think they want to play live, but it's built a different way.
I almost feel like it would be hard if you like if you're. You can speak to this. If you had like 10,000 followers online, and then you go and play to a show of 6 people, that might be like a bit of a.
Oh yeah, there's like I remember in the streaming era, the first thing we were working with an artist, and they weren't necessarily like a young artist, but they was a beginning of the streaming area, and they had like 15 million plays on the song we were working. It was like a massive success for us. So I go to Toronto, see them play, 2 people.
Yeah,
like other people there, and one's another industry person and me, and it was like, oh, this is passive. No one knows who these people are. Or
even if it's not to disagree, but maybe it isn't passive, but maybe just the medium at which people enjoy that music is digital.
Quite possibly, which I would probably argue
it was passive in that case.
Is passive in that case.
Okay, yeah.
I think if the way people think of digital, like, yes, maybe they know who you are, but you're something they play is not an active participant, is something that you play a lot, but it's kind of just like integrated into your day. Where it's not like we were talking about earlier where, oh, you go home, you put on a record, that's the only thing you're doing.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a band that comes to mind named Coco Roco, who I absolutely adore. They're from the UK. And, I found them through whatever, like, showed up on my feed, and I, like, really fell in love. And then they were supposed to play at the Toronto Jazz Festival, and I, like, went out to, like, actually watch them play. And,
right.
like, at that point, like, there was a clear, definitive change between Coco Roco in my heart and in my mind versus the other bands, because like they were one that I'd actually be willing to go and see.
And that's a different. There are, I think, layers of if you want to call it fandom, super listeners, whatever your tag you're wanting to use. There is something different, and it changes is going to show social thing. It's part of your day to day. I think that's unfortunately happening a little bit less with this generation. It's not really their fault.
It's just like a part of their
experience,
life experience.
Yeah, and they have so many more options. How can you be bored now?
Yeah. I mean, some of the reasons I go out when I was younger was because I was bored at home.
Yeah.
Like, at least even if I don't like the bands, I'm going to go out and hang out. You know what I mean?
Like, it was just a thing. Oh, who's playing Polish Combatants Hall? Okay. I don't know any of those
I have never heard of them, but my buddy's going, and it's either that or I'm at home.
It's going to be the event.
Watching Everyone Loves Raymond. There's only two
and then after that, you're going to have to watch King of Queens, and then you know that things have gotten real low.